Okay, so for centuries, people have studied the Quran for its poetry, its laws, its stories, the stuff on the surface. But what if I told you there's another layer, something hidden, woven right into the fabric of the text itself? Today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating idea that the Quran isn't just a text, but maybe, just maybe, a masterpiece of mathematical design.
And that really brings us to the core question, doesn't it? Is this just a regular book, or is there something like a hidden code baked into it? Are the patterns we're about to look at just random chance, or do they point to something much, much bigger? Let's take a look at what the researchers have found, and you can decide for yourself. So, this whole field of study actually has a name. It's called ijaz adadi. It basically translates to numerical miracle. And the core idea? It's that underneath the words, the verses, everything, there's this incredibly complex mathematical architecture, a hidden blueprint. And the people who study this, well, they argue it's just way too precise to be an accident. Okay, let's get into the first piece of evidence.
All right, section 1. We're going to start with the first pattern, and it revolves around the word the book.
So researchers started with a pretty simple question. Where does the Quran first call itself kitab, which, just means the book? The answer to that question is our very first clue in this whole puzzle.
And check this out. The answer is just incredibly neat. The very first time the word kitab shows up is in the second surah, or chapter, in the second ayah, or verse, and it's the second word of that verse. You can't make this up. It's a perfect coordinate, 2, 2, 2.
Now, if you think that's interesting, hold on. Proponents of this theory say, okay, let's take it one step further. What happens if you just add those numbers up? 2 plus 2 plus 2. You get 6. Simple enough, right? But they say this number isn't random. It's actually the start of a trail.
See, that position, Surah 2 verse 2, it's not just an island. Researchers believe it forms a direct numerical bridge to another really important verse. And this other verse? It's the one that explains what the book is actually for, its whole purpose.
And where is that verse? It's right here. Surah 3, verse 3. And this is the verse that talks about how the book was sent down to confirm what came before it.
So you see what they're pointing at here? A clear progression from 2.2 to 3.3. It's like a structural link connecting the moment the text says, I am a book, to the moment it explains why it's a book. Pretty neat, right? But honestly, that's just the warm-up. Now we get to the really mind-blowing stuff.
Okay, next up, the symmetrical revelation, focusing on the recitation. This is the big one, folks. This is the pattern that gets cited all the time as the most powerful piece of evidence. It's all about the name of the book itself, the Quran.
The question here is super simple, but the potential answer is, well, it's pretty profound. All you have to do is find the very first time the word Quran appears in the text, and then find the very last time it appears. We're basically looking for the bookends of its own name.
And here they are. The first mention is in Surah 2, verse 185. The very last mention is in Surah 85, verse 21. Okay, just take a second and look at those two coordinates.
Do you see it? I mean, at first glance, they just look like random numbers, right? But the researchers behind this say, no, look closer. There's a hidden connection here between the beginning and the end.
Okay, here it is. This is wild. Take the first location, Surah 2, verse 185. Now just take all those digits, 2, 1, 8, 5, and reverse them, so you get 5, 8, 1, 2. Now split them back into a surah and a verse number. What do you get? Surah 85, verse 21. It's a perfect mirror image. The location of the last mention is an exact digital reversal of the first. That's an absolutely perfect symmetry, closing the loop on the entire text.
So, okay, what does this all mean? Finding these patterns is one thing, but what's the takeaway? For the folks who study ijaz adadi, these aren't just fun number games. They believe this has some really profound implications. Their arguments basically break down into 4 big ideas. First, and this is the big one, that this kind of design points to a divine author. Second, that these patterns are like a hidden seal, guaranteeing the text preservation, because if you changed even one word, the whole code would break. Third, it shows that verses that are far apart are actually deeply connected. And finally, it just reveals this amazing symmetry and balance in the structure of the entire book.
And here's the real kicker. The core argument rests on how the Quran was revealed. We're talking about a period of 23 years.
It wasn't written like a novel, from start to finish. It came down in pieces, often reacting to events as they happened. So the claim is, for a human to embed these kinds of long-range symmetrical patterns under those conditions, well, it would be basically impossible. It would take a kind of foresight that's just not human.
Okay, a quick but really important note on interpretation here. It's super important to look at this field with some scholarly perspective. Because while these patterns are, fascinating, mainstream scholars have a pretty clear view on how we should think about them. And this quote really sums up the mainstream view pretty perfectly, that these kinds of numeric studies should complement, not replace, traditional understanding. So what does that mean? Basically, think of it as an extra layer that can make you appreciate the text's complexity even more. But it's not meant to be a tool to throw out the established ways of understanding the text based on its language, history, and context.
So let's be super clear on the takeaway here. On one hand, what this theory suggests is a potential hidden layer of incredible structural beauty, almost like a divine signature. But what it doesn't mean, and this is crucial, is that it's some new secret key to interpret laws or come up with new beliefs. The whole point is to inspire a sense of wonder at the structure, not to change the meaning of what's inside.
And that really brings us to our final thought. Discovering a pattern like the perfect symmetry of the word Quran, it just leaves you with this massive question. It doesn't really matter if you see it as a miracle or just a 1 in a billion coincidence. Either way, it makes you look at these ancient texts in a whole new light. And it makes you wonder what other incredible patterns might be lying there, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for someone to find them.